This is part 2 of making a photomontage group portrait. I'm going to bring in another eye. So I'm going up to Layer, Open Image as Layer, and I'm selecting Marilyn Monroe. I'm going to this time draw a rectangle around it and leave it as a rectangle. I don't want any feathering, so I'm going to bring that down to 0, and I'm taking off the anti-alias. I'm going to redraw that to see if we can't get it more of a rectangle. I'm going up to Edit, Invert Selection, and Cut. You do have the option of leaving your shapes as the original shape, and that is perfectly fine. You may want to do a little bit of both. You can do some where you leave them as a shape and some where you do the feathering, like in this case, and blend them in. I'm going to pick a nose. So I'm going back to Layer, Open Image as Layer. I'm going to go with this long, slender nose. So again, I'm going to the Marquee tool. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger on the right and then move it over and move it down. Edit, Invert Selection, Edit, Cut. Pretty sure I don't want the corners of the eyes to show, so I'm just going to select that part and cut it. Edit, Cut. Edit, Free Transform, holding down the Shift key, making it a little smaller, moving it into place. A little smaller. I think it can be a little bit smaller. I'm going to hit Enter, and I'm going to move this layer behind the previous eye layer by taking the layer and dragging it below it. You see now that the corner of the eye has popped up. I'm going to get rid of this extra part of the image by selecting it and cutting it. I'm going to zoom in on this center part. I'm going to do a little bit of erasing. I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger, my eraser a little bit bigger, and just give a soft edge to bring in the lips there. The nose looks like it's sitting a little bit on the mouth, so I'm going to move it up again. I'm going to soften this edge as well. Go back to my Move tool, move it up a little bit. Go back to the eraser, soften it to blend it in. You always want to make sure that you are working on the layer that you have highlighted. There's one more thing that I want to do with this. So I'm going to go to Layer, Open image as layer, and select the image of Elton John. You can see it's below my layer 4, but I want it on top, so I'm bringing it up above. I'm going to zoom in a little bit because I'm going to outline the glasses. I'm going to use the lasso tool and the polygonal lasso tool, which allows me to click little bits at a time. The regular lasso tool, you have to do it all in one smooth movement without letting go of your mouse. And sometimes I find that hard to do. As I mentioned in class, Adobe Photoshop has a feature where you can use a magnetic lasso that just grabs right a hold of the shape as you outline close to it. If you are at all considering using this kind of software on a regular basis, Adobe Photoshop and Lightroom are worth the $10 a month. So what I'm hoping to do with this is put the sunglasses on top, making the layer somewhat transparent so that we can see what's below it. In order for the lasso to work, you have to end where you begin. Sometimes it's a little tricky finding that ending point. So now I've got the marching ants, as they call it, and I'm going to go to Edit, Invert Selection, and Edit, Cut. I'm going to move it a little closer to where it should be. And you can see it's a little tilted. So I can go to Edit, Free Transform, and if I hold my mouse just outside of the box, you see how it turns into a circle? That means that I can tilt it. I can rotate it left or right until I get it more level. I think I'm going to make the glasses wider. I did not include the edge of the glasses, so we're going with a little optical illusion here. I like that size. I'm hitting Enter, and I'm going to go to my Erase tool, and I'm going to try dropping down the opacity, and that will give me a softer edge. And I'm just finding the eye that's underneath. This eye appears a bit lower than the other eye. So I'm going to move that eye up. I believe that is layer 4. You have to click on it in order to move it. Yep, that was the right layer. I'm moving it up a little bit. It's kind of a strange technique. And there she's got eyeglasses. One more quick thing. If you would like to do something like the triangular one that we showed you, if you open an image as a layer, again, I'm going to move it to the top so there's nothing on top of it. I can go to the lasso and the polygon lasso and draw in straight lines. Some of this is going to be trial and error. Invert my selection and cut. I now have a triangle, and I can move that into place. There are a lot of other things you can do around the edges. You can use the burn tool, which darkens edges, and you can use the dodge tool, which lightens edges. So if we bring this up, it only works on the layer you're selected on. And it doesn't appear to be working at all on this one. We'll work with that another time. I've shown you a lot of different techniques here. My final image is not a